We'll call the Board of County Commissioners meeting for October 18th, 2022 to order. Roll call, Beth.
Barry,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Bo,
Here.
David.
Here. We have a quorum. We'll proceed. If everybody would please stand up for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, consent agenda. What are the wishes?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion carried. Looks to me like we have one public hearing. It's contesting of minimum price set for 2019 tax foreclosure properties. Brenda, do you want to talk before I open it?
This is just a time for the cities and townships to give an objection if they have any towards the tax foreclosure minimum bid prices that you guys set at the last commission meeting.
Okay, I will open the public hearing. Are there any comments on the minimum price set for the 2019 tax foreclosure properties? Any comments on the foreclosure properties price set? Final time, any comments for contesting a minimum price set for 2019 tax foreclosure properties? Public hearing is closed.
And then if I could have you guys set the location and time for the annual sale. It will be on November 15th, and we would like to hold it over at Broadway Commons at 10 o'clock in the Veterans Memorial Room.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thanks, Brenda. We'll jump into new business here. Let's go right to the Agra Industries. I believe they have a request here. Please state your name for the record.
Ken Acra, and bear with me, my third week with the company, so this is all new.
You're an old hand then. You're good. 3 weeks is plenty of time.
From what I understand, there was a condition for an annual renewal for the water depots. There are 5 within Williams County. And the Agri Industries is requesting that that condition be removed and then renewals be set at if we make any changes to the water depots, the usage in that. And that is what they're requesting.
Okay. Cameron, you got anything you want to add?
Good morning, Commissioners. Cameron Heimer, Development Services. I had reviewed this request with Sam, and we agree that that would be an appropriate request to have the annual renewal removed. To our knowledge, we couldn't recall any complaints we've received on any of the properties that are in question or water depots. When we look further through the county, this wasn't necessarily a standardized item for all water depots. It was something that was done early in the days, and it was just seemed to be consistent. Staff had put that on there originally as a requirement. And then in further research, we found that only 3 others had that requirement. And as you are probably aware, with a conditional use permit, if there are complaints or issues with the property, any time, because it's a conditional permit, we have the right to bring it in front of the board. And so we wouldn't really need these annual renewals necessarily to do that. And as the applicant had already stated, if there were any changes or a new ownership, they would have to reapply anyways for a conditional use permit.
So will you notify the other depot operators also of this then, right?
We certainly can, yeah. From what we could find through our research, there were only 3 others that were renewing annually. In the past, we've had a handful that have also requested to have this removed in front of the board, which it was approved. But because this is the applicant for Agri that is requesting this, this would only apply to their CUPs, but we can certainly reach out to the other ones to, if you would like us to let them know.
Oh, well, I think so, because I was just talking with Steve. 'Cause I can see the conditional use permit fee to begin with, to start the process. But then once it's approved, then as they're operating, then we tax that at a commercial rate, because it's commercial, they're operating commercially. But then if we turn around and have them have to pay a annual renewal fee, I kind of feel like that's double dipping.
Sure, I certainly agree. We can reach out to the other 3. The board could make a motion today to have the annual renewal for all water depots removed. So it would not only cover theirs, but the other 3 that we have, and we will no longer require that, or you can look at just this item today.
Right, and then, like you said, obviously, if there's an issue or a problem, there's still a CUP, so we do have some, pull here yet.
That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that a motion to remove the annual renewal on all of our conditional use permits for water depots, and then have the Planning Development Services Department send a letter to the other 3 notifying them that they've been removed.
Okay.
If approved.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, hearing none. Roll call, Beth?
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Motion carried. 3 weeks in, look at what you're getting done. Good job.
Thank you.
You should get a raise, no?
Yeah, you should let them know. You got it taken care of. Are we waiting a little bit for number 1 on new business, Helen? Just leave it till the end? Okay,
I told her when the meeting was, so.
all right, well, we'll leave that one sit for a little bit till the end of the meeting in case somebody shows up for it. Department heads. Looks like Lindsay, you're up.
Good morning. All right, we've wrapped up the 2022 tourism grant. So this is the first time that we did the tourism grants out of our visitor promotion fund, which are the funds that are collected from our hospitality taxes that we've collected since January 2020. We had made $60,000 available for grants this year, with $20,000 being intended for events and advertising grants and $40,000 intended for capital project grants. We had put out applications that were due in the beginning of September. We did receive quite a few of those. We got 3 events and advertising grant applications and then 9 capital project grant applications. We had a review committee comprised of Commissioner Ramberg, Amy Kruger with the Williston CVB, Katie Ogden from Lewis and Clark State Park, and then myself as an ex officio member. We met several times to review the applications, and what has been provided to you is a recommendation for issuing those awards. I'd also provided you copies of the applications that we had received. In your packet, there's also just some details about the program with some reminders. So with regards to the recommendations for award, of the 3 applications that we received for the events and advertising grants, again, of which a total of $20,000 was available, but maximum of $5,000 was available per award, and a match is required. Only 2 of the 3 applicants were eligible to actually apply. The 3rd applicant is located in the city of Tioga and therefore was not actually eligible. Of the 2 others, the Granora Community Club and the Ray Grain Palace, the committee does recommend an amount of $5,000 for each, contingent upon solidifying either their nonprofit status or just identifying an appropriate fiscal agent. It was a requirement of the program that they had to be a for-profit entity, a public entity, or a nonprofit. And it just so happens that with the Grenora Community Club and the Ray Green Palace Committee, we would just need to confirm their nonprofit status. And in talking with Karen a little bit more, essentially, we just need to make sure that there's an appropriate fiscal agent we can give dollars to.
So they have to be nonprofit?
They would have to be based on the terms of the program, they would have to be a nonprofit. Currently, the Grenora Community Club, in talking with Jeremy Wright, who runs that, they are in the process of obtaining their status again. Or they could identify an appropriate fiscal agent to receive the dollars on their behalf, and then we would still go through obviously the agreement process, the reimbursement process, et cetera. But that's a process that then they have to go through with the state. Any questions on those? Both of them are funds towards the band costs for two different events. For the Grenora Community Club, they host a Back to Harvest Bash that is slated for next year. And then, as you likely know, Ray Green Palace Days are held each year. And so that would go towards their band costs.
Okay, has anybody got any questions for Lindsay? Any?
So we just want to make sure that we're able to actually give them dollars. And since their nonprofit statuses aren't active, this is just kind of giving them a little bit of a leeway to be able to identify that fiscal agent or confirm their nonprofit status would be the recommendation of the committee so that they can accept the award. And so then I'll keep going unless there's some questions. Okay. So there had been a total of $20,000 that we had intended for the events and advertising grant, but since there were only 2 eligible applicants, the committee's recommendation was to take the other $10,000 and apply it towards the capital grants, just because we had received the 9 applications for that, with a total amount exceeding what had been available for that program. So that was intended to be $40,000 with a maximum of $20,000 per award. And again, the grant award can only cover up to 80% of the total cost of their project, thereby requiring a match. So then operating with an assumption that they would be able to use $50,000 towards the capital grants, recommendations are as follows. For the Acts of Kindness group out of Wild Rose for purchasing rental items for community events, including the Wild Rose Summerfest. The city of Grenora has purchased the trailer park that is in Grenora, and they are converting it to an RV park. And so that would be a recommendation of $6,534.30 to be put towards materials for fire rings and picnic tables. Labor for constructing those would be provided by students at the school over the winter time. Then for Lunds Landing Marina, $9,000 for the purchase of 6 kayaks to be provided as rental items. $13,600 for the Ray Community Development Corporation to update the restrooms and air conditioning in the Ray Mall. And then $15,000 for the Lynx of North Dakota to replace the deck of their clubhouse. And in your packet, there's some comments and additional information. It's really hard to not lean into this microphone.
Okay, has anybody got any questions? Comments? I'm assuming we'll be looking for a motion then?
Yes, so a motion to accept recommendations as presented, I think would be okay.
Or anything?
Or then if you want to,
Unless you want to change something.
Yeah, if you want to change anything, or if you want to clarify anything on the fiscal agent status.
I would make a motion to approve the grant requests for the community tourism grant awards.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes. Motion carried.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lindsay. Keith, facilities.
Morning, Commissioners. So you also got a copy of the proposal to upgrade the the HVAC unit for security in the courthouse. A little back history when, if you, I don't know if some of you may be able to recall, that used to be a conference room for the commissioners where security is. That unit was never upgraded and is designed for a closed-off conference room. Well, now, with it being doors opening and closing all day, in the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, they're having some issues, comfort issues. So this proposal is to upsize that unit. We would add some air that would actually, now it just pushes off of the one wall. The supply and return are all on the one wall. This would actually run ducting over to next to the outside wall on the south side. So it'd give them a little more comfort in there. Last winter, we were running little space heaters in there to try and keep them comfortable, which obviously isn't ideal and is a fire hazard. So I'm looking for authorization for the chairman to sign this proposal so we can get them in there to get this done.
Anybody have any questions for Keith? What are the wishes?
I'd make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
And authorize the chairman to sign.
Okay, moved, seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
David? Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes,
Bo?
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Treasurer recorder.
Good morning. You should have a quote in front of you for a digital microfilm scanner. This is something that I didn't budget for, but in doing our back indexing project, realized that this would be beneficial to our office. What we currently have is really old. We don't even plug it in because it overheats. Document preservation funds could be used for this, so I'm looking for permission to purchase this.
If it overheats, we could put it in Keith's room to help heat that. We're not going to do that. Okay. Sorry, I'll focus again. You can see anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'd make a motion to approve the Day-True, what is it?
Yep, Day-True.
Day-True
Yeah.
quote?
Yep.
And to take the funds from the documentation.
Document preservation fund.
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes,
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. Should we jump back up to that one and talk about it, or do we just leave it? What are your thoughts? I guess
I mean, here's the situation, just to recap. We had a request in the spring at some point from a representative of the Cow Creek Union Cemetery. There's property owned in Cow Creek Township that is cemetery property, and the request was for reimbursement of, or actually in the spring, it was a request for purchase of equipment to about $18,000. And then sometime here in the fall, we got a request for reimbursement for the purchase of a piece of equipment this summer and some time for folks who are mowing. And having discussed this during budget hearings, our determination was it's not the responsibility of the county to maintain privately owned property. And we have 60-plus cemeteries, none of whom we are supporting. In the process then of doing some research after I talked to Cow Creek Union Cemetery, we've checked with other counties and townships. We get no response from anyone that says they are supporting the care and maintenance or equipment purchases for cemeteries within their boundaries. So I did call Caroline, who's the representative, and she was unhappy with my explanation that this was we were going to deny the request. You all didn't have the money, the township. I think this comes to you in part because you're the township board, maybe. She was unhappy with the answer. I think talk to the chairman, maybe talk to one or more of you as well. We thought that she would be here today so that I guess she could hear from you all instead of just me what the decision was.
So is it something that we would even need to make a decision on, or should we make a decision now to save time, or do we just leave it sit and let it come back again?
I guess she could review this video if you all want to talk through where you're at and make a motion. There's no harm in that. But
Well, has there been an act, like a formal request, or is this just a thinking out loud thing?
no, I think she emails the auditor on 2 separate occasions to make the request.
With an actual bill, I mean,
Yeah, we have copies of, we have,
yeah,
right, we
bill
have
for the
receipts
time
from,
and
yep.
weed eater, and I don't remember exactly what was all on it, but it was an actual bill that we received.
Yeah, we have formal estimates that they apparently procured for the purchase of the $18,000 of equipment as well.
I need to ask a legal question if I can. Karen, hopefully you can help us. These funds, are we allowed as the controlling entity, I guess, of the township because it's unorganized? Are we allowed to use township funds to pay this bill by state law?
No. No.
Thank you. You answered my question.
And
No,
just-
you did. You answered it. You answered it. No, we're good.
I did not have a.
You did so good.
I did not have a follow-up question. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. So I mean, if there's a bill that was submitted, I think we probably need to take an action.
Well, I guess my concern is, I mean, I understand their, concern as well of a lot of other cemeteries. I'm sure it's got to be a tough situation if you put yourself in their shoes. But on the other hand, I think from what I understand, our hands are tied by state statute to do this. And if we go ahead and approve it, and the state auditor comes in and says, hey, you guys paid a bill that you're not supposed to, we're going to have to pay that money back, I would say yes. And then where does that money come from? It's going to come from the general fund, which would be the taxpayers of the county.
All right, I think the chairman has indicated to me that Caroline just arrived. So maybe I'll repeat so that she can hear. You want to let her know that we're on?
Yeah, we're actually, we moved you to the bottom. Yeah, but we're just talking about it now, so.
So I'll recap so that she's here because Caroline is here. So we did receive in the spring a request for funding of some equipment related to the Cow Creek Union Cemetery. It's a cemetery that is privately owned by the Cow Creek Union Cemetery Association in Cow Creek Township. The request was for about $18,000 in equipment related to care and maintenance of the cemetery. And then at the end of the, summer season, we got a request for just over $1,000 in reimbursement for time and the purchase of a weed eater. As we talked about during budget hearings, it is not the responsibility of the county to provide funding for care and maintenance of any of our 60-plus privately owned cemeteries in the county. And so I did call on behalf of this board and deny Caroline Wingerter's request for reimbursement. She was frustrated with that answer and I think has called the chairman, talked to him a little bit, and wanted to be able to discuss that with you here today and get an answer, I think, straight from the board.
Thank you for the update. You want to come on up, Carolyn?
Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to present this letter to you really quick, like Corey. This was written by my brother. It mailed and it came back undeliverable, so I just wanted to make sure that you had a copy of that to look at. And I guess I just wanted to come this morning and just kind of give you a brief overlay of the Cow Creek Cemetery Association as it stands today. This kind of all started way back in the 50s when an elderly gentleman out in the county donated 2 acres of land to the Cow Creek Cemetery Association, to which I don't believe there was an association really at that time. It was just, that's how he deeded it. And so I'm not sure who took care of the cemetery. I don't know how, it all came about. But in 1993, after my mom passed away, my husband and I took over the role of taking care of the cemetery. It's a 2-acre tract, and we've gone out every year, and we have mowed it, weed-eated it, and just kept it in an orderly fashion. To the best of my knowledge, we've had 2 other people come. It's a 2-acre tract like this, and then way down in the corner, there was another couple that is buried down there, and that's the only thing that these folks mowed. They just mowed down in the corner. Everything else was just left. And so my husband and I have been going out and doing this faithfully since 1993. We first took out our own equipment and used that, and then we were fortunate enough in 2010, 2011 to lease the 2 acres of tract of land, and so we decided that we were going to buy a riding lawnmower just for the cemetery, and we would use our own weed eater, and we would use our own push mower. And so we would take it from town out to the country, and knowing the roads and the conditions that they were in 2012, 2013, my husband said, Carolyn, we're going to totally destroy this lawnmower. We can't do this anymore. So we went and took the remaining funds that we had, most of the remaining funds, and we bought a shed. And we put the lawnmower in the shed out at my folks' farm, so we didn't have to go through that road anymore. So we have continuously mowed the cemetery. We mowed it again this summer 4 times because fortunate for the farmers, and that's great, but it's a bad thing for the cemetery because it grew immensely. And it's literally this high with alfalfa and sweet clover, at least 2 feet high every time we go out. And so it's time consuming. It takes us about 6.5 hours by the time we leave town, go out to the farm, hook up the equipment, take it down, put oil in it, put gas in it, mow the cemetery, take it back, and come back to town. And we've done it, we've done it May, June, July, and August this year. I said, no, we're not going to do it in September, but I will submit the bill. We've always been paid. I did not know that they were not going to pay us this year. Had they not paid us this year, telling us this probably before Memorial Day, I would have just let it go. And that's where it's at. So I'm coming here this morning to ask you folks if there's any way that you could submit it for this year and have us get paid. And then I believe in the future, they're going to have some sort of grant program where we can apply for grant money to get this paid for. I would be more than willing to do it at that time. Definitely more than willing. But I visited with the folks from Morton County, and she said that they have 2 cemeteries that they mow down there, and their park district mows both of them, and they pay the park district. I visited with Divide County. She said they don't have any, but she said it's a very good topic that they need to discuss. I called Ward County, and she basically said the same thing, that they don't have any cemeteries down there that they have to take care of.
Okay, Commissioner Montgomery, you want to ask your question again? That you asked right before they.
Carolyn, I asked a question. If the funds that are collected through the township can be used for this legally, and the answer was no, they cannot be. So I guess that's the concern that I would have. I mean, don't get me wrong, I certainly understand your situation. I put myself in your shoes as I do a lot of other people. And we have, 63 cemeteries in Williams County. And so I tend to believe that they're probably all in the same situation. But unfortunately, with our hands being tied statewide or by state law, if we expend funds to this out of the township and we get audited, most likely we're going to have to pay those funds back, and where are those funds going to come from, I guess. So I guess that's my concern, as I mentioned before, as you were walking in, so.
So anybody got any other questions for Carolyn or
Well,
Ellen?
my thoughts are that the majority of the cemeteries are, belong to a church. But unfortunately, back in the 50s when this was donated, a gentleman came through the county, and he, along with my grandfather, built the structure for this to have a church associated with this cemetery. And my grandpa went down and built the external part of it and didn't finish off the rest of it because the pastor was going to collect the funds and build the inside of it. And as soon as he had collected enough funds, he purchased a car and skipped the country. So that's why it was never built or finished. So we had a sign, thankfully built last summer for the Cow Creek Cemetery, and I wanted to have it non-denominational because I want anybody that wants to be buried out there to be buried out there. I'm not sure if Grant Carnes is in the audience, but I also visited with Grant Carnes this summer. And I asked him, I said, when my dad was buried, they put these wonderful plaques out there and they're for the veterans of the wars or whatever. And so and then my uncle's is very nice. It's up very nice. My dad's, however, is way down into the ground. The only reason why you can see it is because I go out there and I brush it off and I get off all the dirt and whatever. And then you also have a fellow employee over there, a past employee, Charles or Chick Battis, and his grave is in terrible condition, terrible. It needs to be filled in, and the headstone is dropping off into the ground. So I visited with Grant about getting that accomplished and getting that done, and he said, yes, he said, we will look into it. He said, but IPRO probably have to charge you. And so therefore I thought, well, we'll take the funds that are still in our organization so that we can pay to have that done, but I would like to have that done. And there's also a headstone out there that's been broken off, and I would like to get that repaired also. So I would like to take the funds that we have currently in our organization to take care of that, because there's nothing been done for Chick, and there's been nothing done for my dad.
So you have money
We do have money in there, yes. But if I were to turn in this bill, and I'm not necessarily, was thinking, that we could get a better lawnmower and a better trailer and a Conex, but if that can push it to the side, I'm fine with that. We'll just continue to use what we have, and I'm fine with that. But I would really like to be paid for our services that were done. Because if I don't know who will do it. Who do you plan on having it done with, Because we would consider it abandoned, and then you would have to take care of it under the statute that I pulled out from the North Dakota Century Code 23-0630.
Okay, I see Dan was raising his hand.
Okay.
You want to come up, Dan? Hang tight, wait till you get to the mic, because there might be people listening.
Good morning, how are you? Gentlemen, thank you for allowing Carolyn to come in to visit with you this morning, and myself. We own the land that surrounds this Cow Creek Cemetery, and so we have a little bit of interest in seeing it remain in the condition that it is, or in better. But I have the same question: what is the future? If there's 63 cemeteries in the county, what is the future plan for care for these? And Corey, you and I visited earlier, and I didn't hear what you had to say about your visits with the rest of the counties down in Bismarck. So if you
Really, what we talked about down there, nobody really that I talked to has done anything that take care of the cemeteries. I know Beth sent out to all the auditors. You said you found a couple. We didn't get responses on that, and the people I talked to said they didn't. Now, I mean, we didn't stand up in front of the entire state of North Dakota and bring it up.
Well,
it was
that's what I'm hoping you
conversation.
would do is have the auditors check
So, but we did and gotten, Beth, nothing, right? I mean, responses, but none, right, none affirmative saying that they take care of cemetery.
Right, we got a handful of responses, and we did have some conversations when we were with other county folks in October. And part of the answer is that the North Dakota Century Code is pretty clear on what abandoned means. And so if after some period of time a cemetery is in disrepair, it does become the county's responsibility. In different parts of the states, there are some counties that are doing that work. The law says that once a year, you need to knock down the weeds and you need to make sure that stones, to the best of your ability, are staying where they're supposed to stay. And so in large part, counties at the end of the park season, it appears, go out and take down the weeds with their Parks Department staff.
It can be paid then by law, right?
By
It
law,
becomes
so-
abandoned,
right.
then we can do it.
Carolyn, what is it costing you to keep it maintained at this point?
Well, she sent us a bill down. We have all that. So we don't need to rehash where we're at. I mean, I think where we're at right now is we just need to probably, in order to make a decision, it's by law, we can't pay it out of these funds. So I don't know that there's a whole lot we can do from this seat. And I mean, we can talk longer about it, but I don't know what else there is to say when state says. We really try not to have a slush fund, Carolyn. That's probably something that a government agency shouldn't have, is a slush fund.
I mean, you have to have oddities.
Carolyn, there are people watching online and they can't hear you if you're not at the mic, so you need to go to the mic.
Well, my concern is if, you have to have some sort of maintenance account where I would think that you would be able to take it out of your maintenance fund and to be able to pay for it, because really it's something that is done on behalf of the county so that you folks don't have to go out and do it. I mean, it sits right alongside the road. That's my main issue, is that I don't want to have a cemetery that's sitting right alongside the road that's not being taken care of. And I don't believe you folks would either, because every once in a while it pops up on Facebook and says, hey, where's this cemetery that's out there in the country and there's no name on it? And I just think it would be, I just don't think it would be a good thing for the county to say, well, yeah, that sits in Williams County, but nothing gets done with it.
Okay, well, I think we've appreciate, we're going to turn it over to the board, and there'll have to be a decision made. So unless you guys have got another question for Dan or Caroline, thank you for your time and putting in the effort, and thank you for taking care of it. But now we have to turn it to the board and make a decision.
Thanks, gentlemen. I just want to point out, Carolyn and her husband do spend a lot of time taking care of this thing, and it's well maintained. Okay, thanks for your time.
Well, I think Karen stated the moral of the story is it's private property. And, I mean, if it was public property, it would be different. But we cannot spend public funds on private property, correct? That's the long and the short of it. The state law says that we cannot pay the bill.
I guess put simply, yes, we can't pay this bill. You can't pay this bill out of the township funds because most of those funds are for road purposes. And you can't pay it out of county funds because the county can only spend its funds on what state law allows it to do. And unless it's an abandoned cemetery, you can't spend county funds on this unless you use our home rule charter. That's it.
Okay, I think that answers the question. So what are the wishes? So with that being said, we don't even need a motion. We can just Thoughts of the board? Everybody okay with that? Okay, hearing none, we'll take no action and we're gonna move on. What's that? Actually, we've decided we're not gonna take any action on it, so we're gonna move on to the, commission meeting position report with Helen.
All right, you have the report in your packet. We have an emergency management specialist position that we haven't had filled in the last couple of years, and we are seeking permission to advertise that. We're going to consider getting that filled in the next couple of months, and then we do have an opening in the sheriff's office as well. So permission to fill both of those positions.
Make a motion to approve the 2 requests, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Motion carried.
We have an opening, if you remember, because of a population change and ETJs in some of our cities, extraterritorial jurisdictions. We needed to add positions to some planning and zoning boards. And we've completed that process for the city of Williston. We've been advertising for the Tioga seat, and we haven't gotten any applicants. And so and we've reached out to folks in the city of Tioga too, the auditor and the guy in charge of planning and zoning. So if you know someone in Tioga, the trick is that they have to live in the ETJ. And so it is, I think, a narrow scope of the population.
Do they have to live in the ETJ or just inside the ETJ too? Can they live in town also, or is it only the ETJ?
We could ask Karen to look that up. She can email you an answer to that. So anyway, there's the legal obligation is that we try and get this spot filled. We'll continue to keep it open until we have an applicant, and then of course it'll get reviewed by that board and come to you for approval. So we'll go through the same process, but just know there could be a delay.
They actually have to live in the ETJ, and you can only, under state law, you can only really live in one place. It's like wherever, you vote.
Right.
So-
I was just curious if it was just the the strip of the ETJ, or if it was from the outside edge in.
No, just the strip of the ETJ? Yeah.
I do. Can I look at it first and then hand it to you? I'll point out that we have someone in the room who is a stranger to us. We have folks from the National Association of Counties here this week. They actually interviewed Commissioner Montgomery for a book that they're putting together with stories from counties across the country. And it was about affordable housing and some of the challenges that we faced in the 2010, 11, 12 era. And they have some other stories they're working on. They're going down to McKenzie County today to talk to them about some of what they have going on as well. And so I think they're collecting some now supporting material, video and photographs to go along with this project.
Can I just make sure to point one thing out? And that is that they're going to be quick to remind you that they're the fastest growing county in the nation, but we are the second fastest growing county in the nation. So just to make sure we got 1 and 2 covered, but we're usually forgotten. So yes, exactly.
All right, so I'm throwing this into my list of things today because I'm working on calendars for 2023. And so if I want to put out a calendar to employees for annual enrollment that shows commission dates, I wanted to talk about your plans for 2023. If you look at the list of dates that I gave you and not the calendar, the question is always during the 4th of July week, what are we going to do with our meeting? And this year, the 4th of July is actually on a Tuesday. And so we do need to make a decision. You could just cancel the meeting, but then there would be a 4-week gap in which there's no meeting. And the way that business goes these days, and maybe the way that fate goes, I think if we cancel a meeting, we're sure to have all sorts of things we wish that we could address. And so this year, what we did was we moved our 4th of July week meeting back to the Thursday prior, which allows for both commissioners and staff to be absent some during that holiday week. We've had a little trouble if in the 4th of July week we just move it later. Sometimes we've still got a number of people gone and it creates complication. So it's up to you all how you want to handle that 4th of July question. You'll see that I've just following what we did this year, I did indicate June 29th, but you get to do whatever you want. And then you'll see that we indicated also those 3 budget hearing dates and a year-end meeting date. So we would need you to approve a regular meeting schedule. Has to happen anyway.
Well,
under-
thanks for putting it together. I think it looks good. I mean, for a year out, we should be able to figure out our schedules. So what are the wishes on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the 2023 calendar as presented with moving the Tuesday, July 4th, 2023 meeting to June 29th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Beth, did somebody poke you? Okay, sounds good. Moved and seconded. No discussion. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes. Motion carried.
That's all I have. Unless
Thank you,
have
Helen.
something for me.
Could I get one about half that size?
And with that being said, we will close the October 18th Board of County Commission meeting.